You ever wake up one day and realize you've been living in a con? Yeah, that was me. Name's Greg Donovan, co-owner of Greystone Vineyard, third-generation wine slinger, and, apparently, the last to know that my wife was boinking our main investor. I didn't get there all at once. It was more like a slow drip of acid on the brain. For a while, Claire and I were the power couple of Napa Valley. People said that at least. She was the charm, the face, the curated Instagram smile. I was the guy in the background making the damn thing run. I handled the books, the vendors, the legal headaches. She handled the photo shoots, the tasting notes, and the schmoozing. And she was damn good at it. Too good, maybe. You get used to your spouse being a little flirty in this business. Charm sells wine. I told myself that a lot. Kept telling myself that even when she started making research trips to Sonoma every other week. Gotta see what the competition's doing, she'd say, tossing on some designer scarf and sliding into her new little convertible. The thing practically squealed midlife crisis every time she hit the gas. I played along. Kept the vineyard humming, kept our employees paid, kept our flagship Pinot and were winning medals. But the trips kept coming. Solo trips. Overnight ones. Then she'd come home at midnight, 2 in the morning sometimes, giggly and red-cheeked like a college kid back from spring break. Only this was my 38-year-old wife who used to roll her eyes if I so much as poured her a second glass at dinner. Long tasting. I'd ask, dry as the Chardonnay she claimed to be sampling. Lots to try, she'd say, brushing past me with a kiss that missed the mark. Now, you don't last in this business without knowing when something smells off. And it wasn't the wine. It got worse. Her phone was never out of her hand. Started getting new clothes, new lingerie. And no, not the kind she modeled at home. Her text became cryptic, lots of smiley faces to some unknown Daniel. That's when the dots started connecting. Daniel Prescott, our biggest investor. Silver fox with a white smile and a bank account the size of a small country. I tolerated the guy because he wrote checks and got us national distribution. But I noticed how Claire lit up around him. And now, her calendar seemed to sync suspiciously with his travel schedule. I'm not a jealous guy, but I'm also not an idiot. Still, I had no proof. Just gut instinct and a rising urge to throw a bottle of Cabernet through a wall. Not exactly admissible in court. So I bided my time. Watched. Waited. Then one rainy Tuesday, the universe handed me a loaded gun. Storm had knocked out the power. Claire was off on another collab meeting with some boutique vineyard. I was home, sorting invoices by flashlight, grumbling about PG&E when the lights flickered back on. That's when I spotted it. Claire's Kindle, sitting abandoned on the kitchen counter. Now, this was weird. She never left that thing anywhere. It was her lifeline, practically glued to her. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it. I respected privacy, right up until I had reason not to. Call it instinct. Or a voice in my head whispering, check the damn Kindle. So I did. I tapped it awake. No lock screen. Claire must have been reading and gotten distracted. But she wasn't reading a novel. Nope. The Kindle was open to some online journal app, synced across devices, apparently. And right there at the top was an entry titled, First Night with Daniel. I swear my heart stopped. I shouldn't have read it. I know. But tell me what you'd do in that moment. I tapped it open. And there it was, in black and white, a blow-by-blow account of her first tryst with our smiling, deep-pocketed investor. Where they met. What they drank. What they did. How many times they did it. And how she couldn't stop thinking about him since. It was written like a bad romance novel. Overwrought metaphors, flowery descriptions, God, the velvet embrace line alone made me gag. But the message was clear. My wife was sleeping with Daniel Prescott behind my back. Repeatedly. And it wasn't a one-off. I scrolled. More entries. Weekend in Sonoma. Meeting at the tasting room after hours. Can't stop thinking about him. Each one time-stamped. Each one painting a picture I couldn't ignore anymore. I took photos of every entry with my phone. Just in case. I knew she'd delete it the moment she realized her mistake. Then I closed the Kindle and put it back exactly where I found it. 2 hours later, Claire came breezing in, cheeks flushed, smelling like a perfume ad. She kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. Good trip? I asked, voice neutral. Very productive, she grinned. Oh yeah, babe. Productive as hell. I smiled back and poured us each a glass of our new vintage. Because sometimes, the best revenge starts with patience. If there's one thing about getting sucker punched by your own wife's digital diary, it's that the aftershocks hit in waves. First, disbelief. Then rage. Then, if you're me, a cold clarity that starts turning gears in your head. The night I found those entries, I didn't sleep. Not a wink. I just lay there staring at the ceiling fan, counting each slow, mocking rotation. Claire was curled up beside me, snoring like nothing in the world could trouble her little adulterous heart. I kept replaying her words from the journal. The taste of his lips, the thrill of being wanted again, the way Daniel's eyes see me like Greg never does. Yeah, that one stung. Funny thing is, I never saw myself as the jealous type. In fact, if you'd asked me a month ago, I'd have told you our marriage was rock solid. We ran a successful vineyard, had friends, traveled, laughed. We were that couple everyone said seemed so in sync. Turns out we were only in sync when she was busy syncing more than her calendar with our investor. Come sunrise, while Claire was still dead to the world, I got up, made coffee, and did what I do best, started making a plan. No confrontation. No yelling. That would just give her the upper hand. People expect the wrong spouse to go nuclear. Cry. Beg. Demand answers. Screw that. I wanted her to squirm. To feel the floor vanish under her designer heels. But first, I needed more than diary entries on a Kindle. That was just the tip of the iceberg. I went full detective mode. Started with our shared iCloud account. Claire's phone backups were synced there. She'd never been very tech-savvy. I cross-checked dates from the journal with her calendar and location data. Guess what? Every wine research trip lined up perfectly with Daniel's known travel dates. Next, I pulled transaction records from our joint bank account. Hotel stays, spa treatments, expensive restaurants in Sonoma and Napa where I knew she wasn't meeting with bloggers. She wasn't exactly subtle. Daniel liked to impress, and Claire liked to be impressed. Then came the texts. Oh boy, the texts. Thanks to a recent iOS update and her sloppy iCloud settings, I accessed a treasure trove of messages between Claire and Daniel. My favorite? Counting the hours till we're back in that suite. Could barely keep my hands off you last time. Romantic, isn't it? Another gem. Greg will be none the wiser. He's so busy playing Vineyard Tycoon. She had no idea how wrong she was about that. Now, you'd think at this point, a rational man might confront his wife. Sit her down, lay out the evidence, demand answers. But I've learned something about people like Claire and Daniel. They thrive on drama. They twist the narrative. I wasn't going to give them that luxury. If I played it cool, I could make the fallout public. Permanent. Unforgettable. That's when the idea started forming. Our annual Greystone Vintage launch gala was just a few weeks away. The crown jewel of our social calendar. Media, influencers, big money clients, all under one glittering roof. Claire had been obsessing over this year's event for months. It was going to cement our brand in the luxury market. Her words. Daniel, naturally, was going to be there. The more I thought about it, the clearer the plan became. If Claire wanted her dirty little affair to stay private, too bad. I was going to turn it into performance art. First thing I did was call Sam. Sam Harris, poet, performance artist, professional pot stirrer. We'd gone to college together. She owed me one for helping her out of a nasty legal mess years back. I pitched her the idea over coffee. At first, she thought I was joking. You want me to read your wife's affair diary as poetry at your gala? She asked, eyes wide. Exactly, I said. But it can't sound like a hit piece. Class it up. Edit it. Leave just enough ambiguity. Sam grinned. Greg, that's stone cold. I love it. We spent the next week turning Claire's cringe fest into an elegant collection of anonymous poems. I scrubbed names. Focused on the raw emotion. The longing. The betrayal. Titles like Harvest of Desire, The Wine Dark Night, and Barrel Room Secrets practically wrote themselves. I also printed a limited run of chapbooks, 50 glossy copies. Enough for the VIP gift bags. Each credited simply to Anonymous. The piece de resistance? A featured segment in the evening's program. Poetry readings, love, and longing among the vines. I told Claire it was a surprise edition, something to give the gala an artsy flair. She lit up. Oh, that's perfect, she said. Our brand needs more soul. I nearly choked on my drink. Meanwhile, I kept playing the part of the devoted husband. Took her to dinner. Listened to her chatter about wine pairings and lighting schemes. She never suspected a thing. Why would she? In her mind, I was oblivious. Still the dutiful idiot pouring my heart into barrels and spreadsheets. But beneath that calm facade, I was counting down the days. And Daniel? He kept texting her right up to the gala. Sweet nothings. More rendezvous plans. The man was either arrogant or terminally stupid. Probably both. The night before the event, I rehearsed the timing with Sam. We'd open with the usual vineyard speech, then transition into the poetry segment. Sam would take the stage under a single spotlight. Meanwhile, the chapbooks would be handed out, a slow burn that would detonate the room. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. When morning came, Claire was a whirlwind of energy. Hair, makeup, dress fittings. She looked radiant. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Big night, she beamed, kissing my cheek. A new chapter for Greystone. I smiled. Can't wait. Neither could I. As guests arrived that evening, I mingled, shook hands, smiled for the cameras. Claire was in her element, basking in compliments. Daniel arrived late, suave as ever in a tailored suit, eyes flicking toward Claire every chance he got. It was almost showtime. Sam caught my eye from across the room, gave a subtle nod. I raised my glass. Let the games begin. By the time the first cork popped that night, I knew we were set for a gala to remember. Greystone's event hall looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Fairy lights twinkled against the high oak beams. Tables draped in cream linen. Our label projected onto the stone walls. String quartet in the corner, giving the whole place a kind of old-money charm Claire adored. She floated through the crowd in her crimson gown, sparkling earrings catching every flash of every camera. Daniel Prescott wasn't far behind, nursing a glass of our reserve Cabernet, his free hand occasionally brushing her back just a little too long for comfort. I watched the whole charade from the edges of the room, sipping my wine and smiling like the happiest husband in Napa. You have to understand, by this point, I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. The rage phase had burned out sometime between finding the third can't stop thinking about him entry and discovering their shared hotel receipts. What was left was cold, calculated amusement. These two thought they were untouchable. That Claire could string me along while Daniel kept funding our little empire and getting other perks on the side. They had no idea they were about to walk into a buzzsaw. The guest list this year was stacked. Journalists from Wine Spectator, Decanter, and a few lifestyle mags. Regional food influencers. A handful of minor celebrities, a TV chef, some socialite with 1 million Instagram followers. Not to mention our board members, investors, and the entire local vineyard scene. The perfect audience. At 7:30 sharp, the lights dimmed. I took the stage, all smiles. Usual opening speech, thanking the team, the partners, the investors. A few jokes about this year's tricky harvest. Claire beamed at me from the front row, eyes shining. If only she'd known. And now, I said, gesturing toward the program on every seat, we're excited to present a special addition to this year's gala, a collection of poetry exploring love, longing, and the passions that run as deep as our finest wines. Please welcome a visiting poet who prefers to remain anonymous tonight. The ever-talented Sam Harris. Scattered applause. The kind of polite clapping that happens when an audience isn't sure what to expect. Sam appeared from the wings, dressed simply in black, a single spotlight following her to the center of the stage. She held a glass of our Pinot Noir in one hand, the sleek chapbook in the other. She began. Tonight, I share with you the words of a soul laid bare, a voice caught between duty and desire. I invite you to listen and feel. First poem, Harvest of Desire. The opening lines hung in the air. In rows of ripened fruit we met. Your touch a whisper through the vine. A taste forbidden on my lips. Yet sweeter than the finest wine. I watched Claire stiffen. Her smile faltered. Daniel shifted in his seat, jaw tightening. Sam's delivery was perfect, slow, sultry, deliberate. She let the words breathe. Let the meaning settle over the room. You could feel the collective lean-in from the audience. They were hooked. The next stanza painted a clearer picture of late-night rendezvous, hidden trysts among the barrels, whispered promises beneath the stars. I recognized every line. I'd read them a dozen times on Claire's Kindle. Across the room, phones started rising discreetly. Guests began recording. A few whispers rippled through the crowd. Sam finished the first poem to stunned silence, followed by hesitant applause. She sipped her wine. Our next piece, The Wine Dark Night. This one was even less subtle. References to a powerful man with a velvet voice, a lover whose cellar of pleasures ran deep. The poem dripped with innuendo. Anyone paying half attention could put two and two together. Claire was now gripping her wine glass like a lifeline. Her face had gone sheet white. Daniel looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. I stayed rooted to my spot, watching the slow unravel. Sam moved on, barrel room secrets. This was the nail in the coffin. The poem described a tryst in a tasting room after hours, the thrill of risk, the danger of discovery. Specific enough that anyone familiar with Greystone's layout would catch the reference. By now, the buzz in the room was undeniable. People were murmuring, exchanging glances, checking their programs. The phones were out in force, capturing every delicious second. Sam closed the chapbook. "Thank you," she said simply, raising her glass. "To love, in all its forms." The applause this time was thunderous. Not polite anymore. This was the sound of an audience that knew they'd just witnessed something juicy. Something that would be all over social media by morning. Claire bolted to her feet. I saw her start toward the exit, panic written all over her face. I intercepted her halfway there. "What the hell did you do?" she hissed, voice low and furious. I leaned in, my smile ice cold. "Beautiful work, darling. You should really consider publishing." Her eyes flashed. "You think this is funny?" "Funny," I said, sipping my wine. "No." "Poetic?" "Absolutely." She looked like she wanted to slap me. But too many eyes were on us now. Cameras. Phones. Our perfect little gala was already spinning out of her control. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. The coward had slipped out the side during the second poem. I let Claire storm off. No need to follow. The damage was done. The trap had sprung. As the room buzzed with speculation and laughter, I moved back to the bar, poured myself another glass. Sam joined me a moment later, eyes twinkling. "Well?" she asked. "Couldn't have scripted it better," I said. She grinned. "You're a savage, Greg." "Just a man who appreciates good poetry," I replied. Across the room, guests were already flipping through their chapbooks, snapping photos, posting hashtags. I saw #VineyardVixen pop up on Instagram within minutes. The story was spreading. Fast. Claire wouldn't be able to spin this. No amount of PR polish could clean it up. Her carefully curated image, the brand she'd built, was cracking in real time. And me? I had no intention of saving her. You know the best part about watching a liar fall apart in real time? It's not the yelling or the tears, though those can be entertaining. No, it's the tiny moments when their mask cracks and they realize, for the first time, they're not in control anymore. That was Claire at the end of the gala. After Sam's final poem and my little run-in with her in the aisle, Claire tried to save face. For about 2 minutes. Then the whispers got too loud. Too many eyes locked on her, too many murmured questions. She bolted. Didn't even wait for the thank you speeches. Just grabbed her clutch and made a beeline for the side exit, red heels clicking like gunshots against the polished floor. I watched her go, sipping my wine. The sound was sweeter than any vintage in the room. Daniel had already ghosted, of course. Slick bastard must have ducked out during the second reading. I'd seen his empty chair. For a man who liked to throw money around and charm other men's wives, he sure folded fast when the lights got bright. The crowd was buzzing. You could practically feel the heat coming off the phones. Videos of Sam's reading were already making the rounds. Some genius had started #VineyardVixen catchy, scandalous, impossible to ignore. A couple of the younger influencers were openly laughing about it by the bar. "Did you hear? Those poems were about her." One of them giggled, eyes wide. "No way. Claire Donovan? But she's, like, married to the owner." "Exactly." I smiled to myself. Let them spread it. Viral shame works better when it grows organically. I made my rounds after that, all smiles and handshakes. Thanked the guests, answered questions, deflected the inevitable. Who was the poet? Queries with a casual shrug. Anonymous, I'd say. That's the point. The words should speak for themselves. And no, they were speaking. By the time I finally left the hall, around midnight, my phone was blowing up. Text from board members, media contacts, friends. "Dude, what the hell happened tonight? Tell me you saw the hashtag. Gala of the year, my friend." I responded to none of them. Just drove home in the quiet, headlights cutting through the dark vineyard roads. Claire's car was already in the driveway when I pulled in. I half expected her to be gone, packed up, and off to Daniel's villa to lick her wounds. But no. There it was, her little convertible sitting like a monument to her arrogance. I took my time going inside, hung up my jacket, poured a glass of scotch. Only then did I stroll into the living room. She was there, of course, pacing like a caged cat, phone clutched in one trembling hand. The other was scrubbing at her temple like she could erase the whole night through sheer force of will. The moment she saw me, her eyes flared. "You bastard," she spat. "You planned this." I took a sip of scotch. "Planned what?" "Don't play dumb, Greg. Those poems, that filth, that was private." "Was it?" I said, voice cool. "Didn't sound very private tonight." She advanced on me, trembling with rage. How could you do this to me? To us? In front of everyone? I tilted my head. You mean after you wrote it all down for posterity? On your Kindle? Sync to the cloud. I let that sink in. Hell, Claire, you practically gift-wrapped it. Her mouth opened, closed. No comeback. Besides, I continued, I didn't write anything. Just thought our guests would appreciate some authentic vineyard poetry. Adds character to the brand, don't you think? Her face crumpled in, not tears yet, but close. You've ruined me, she whispered. Do you even know what you've done? Oh, I think you managed that yourself, I said, setting the glass down. I just provided a little stage lighting. That's when the waterworks finally came. Full-on sobbing, hands to her face. I stood there, watching, detached. Months ago, that scene would have broken me. No? It was just pathetic. Between the sobs, she started begging. That was the next phase. Greg, please, we can fix this. I'll tell them it was all fiction. A stupid experiment. No one has to know. They already know, Claire. I pulled out my phone. Showed her the trending hashtag, the videos, the screenshots flying across social media. Dozens of posts, thousands of views already. Wine blogs were eating it up. Scandal at Greystone Gala. Anonymous poems expose vineyard love affair. Who was hashtag Vineyard Vixen? Her face went gray. And if you try to spin it now, I added, voice dropping, you'll just look desperate. Dishonest. Which, of course, you are. She slumped onto the couch, shaking. Daniel won't help you, I said. He's already in the wind. Investors hate bad press, and this? This is radioactive. I let that hang in the air. Then I stood. I'll be filing for divorce first thing Monday. You'll get your share, for the prenup. But Greystone? That stays mine. Her head snapped up. You can't do that. Sure I can. Clause 13, remember? Conduct detrimental to brand reputation. You just detonated our brand, Claire. And I have every word of it documented. I gave her a long look. You made your choices. Now you live with them. She didn't respond. Just sat there, staring at the floor, mascara streaking her cheeks. I left her there and went upstairs. Locked the bedroom door behind me. For the first time in months, I slept like a rock. By morning, the story had exploded. I woke to a flood of messages. PR teams were scrambling. Journalists wanted statements. Our social feeds were a mess. Some were calling for Claire's resignation from the brand she helped build. I made one brief post from the official Greystone account. We do not condone conduct that undermines our values or our brand. We will be addressing this matter internally and remain committed to the integrity of Greystone Vineyard. Short, professional. Let the wolves do the rest. Claire spent the day holed up in the guest room. I didn't bother going in. Had bigger fish to fry. Board calls, legal consultations, damage control meetings. I made it clear to everyone, Greystone would survive this. And Claire would be exiting quietly. By sunset, hashtag Vineyard Vixen had hit national news. And I hadn't even played my final card yet. The beauty of a well-executed revenge plan is that once the dominoes start falling, you can pretty much sit back and watch the show. By the second day after the gala, that show had become must-see entertainment for half of the wine world and a good chunk of the internet. Claire, for her part, tried to rally. I heard her on the phone with PR contacts, desperately spinning the story. It was art, she said at one point. Just a creative exercise. The poems weren't about anyone real. That would have been almost convincing if the entire region hadn't already connected the dots between her, Daniel, and the suspicious timing of those wine research trips. By noon, Wine Insider published a piece titled, Who is the Vineyard Vixen? Greystone's Gala Sparks Scandal. It included side-by-side screenshots of the poems and public photos of Claire and Daniel at events, their chemistry obvious to anyone with functioning eyes. The piece ended with a kicker. Sources close to Greystone confirmed that the anonymous poems aligned closely with known travel schedules and documented interactions between Donovan and Prescott. Sources close to Greystone. That'd be me, obviously. I wasn't done yet, though. The gala was just Act 1. The goal wasn't just to expose the affair. It was to make damn sure neither Claire nor Daniel could quietly brush this off and move on. So I moved to Act 2, twisting the financial knife. See, when Claire and I first took over Greystone, we'd negotiated a hefty personal branding contract with the board. Claire was the face of our marketing campaigns, the perfect image of Napa Valley elegance. She got a nice bonus each year for that role. But the contract had a morality clause. And thanks to a little midnight legal review with my attorney, I was ready to trigger it. I emailed the board that morning. In light of recent events and the clear reputational harm caused by Claire Donovan's conduct, I am invoking Clause 7(c) of the Personal Branding Agreement, recommending immediate termination of her role as brand ambassador and cessation of associated payments. Attached, screenshots of the poems, the news articles, and her own words from the journal entries. It wasn't even a fight. The board unanimously approved the termination within 3 hours. Claire's six-figure side income vanished in a blink. I left the official notice in an envelope on the guest room door. She found it around dinner time. I heard the sharp intake of breath when she read it. Then came the inevitable screaming. "You son of a bitch!" she shrieked, storming into the kitchen where I was pouring a glass of Syrah. I took a sip, unbothered. "Language, Claire. Remember, reputation. You can't take that from me," she snapped. "Pretty sure I just did. You're destroying my life." "No, Claire. You destroyed it. I'm just holding up the mirror." She shook with fury, mascara still smudged from a day of crying. For a moment, I thought she might actually slap me, but then the fight drained out of her. She sank into a chair, trembling. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered. "Sure you did. You meant for the affair to happen. You meant to humiliate me. You just didn't think I'd fight back." She covered her face. "Greg, please. Can't we find a way to fix this?" I laughed, couldn't help it. The sheer nerve of her. "Fix this? Claire, we're past that. There's no we anymore. You burned that bridge. Now you get to live with the fallout." I left her there and headed to my office. Had another call to make. Daniel. I hadn't spoken to him directly since before the gala. Thought it was time we had a little chat. I dialed his private line. He picked up on the third ring, voice wary. "Greg." "Daniel," I said, voice calm. "Enjoy the poems?" A pause. "Look, this has gotten out of hand." "Has it?" "I think it's unfolding exactly as it should." He sighed. "I never meant to hurt you." "Save it," I said. "I'm not calling for an apology. I'm calling to let you know that our board will be reviewing your investment position. Given your involvement in recent events, I'd advise you to consider an orderly exit." Another pause. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious. Your presence is now a liability. And trust me, the press knows that too." He exhaled heavily. "I'll have my lawyers contact you." "Please do." "Oh, and Daniel, next time you decide to screw a man's wife, maybe don't leave a paper trail." I ended the call without waiting for a response. By the next morning, word had spread that Prescott was pulling out of several regional ventures, not just Greystone. The scandal was sticking to him like cheap cologne. Meanwhile, Claire had gone radio silent. Locked herself in the guest room, blinds drawn. I figured she was spending her time doom-scrolling through the viral posts. Couldn't blame her. The internet was having a field day. Hashtag Vineyard Vixen memes were everywhere. A photoshopped wanted poster with Claire's face. A mockbook cover, 50 Shades of Syrah. Daniel's head pasted onto a wine barrel with the caption, "Full body with notes of regret." Even late-night talk shows were cracking jokes. One host quipped, "Leave it to the wine crowd to turn adultery into performance art." I couldn't have scripted it better. And yet, despite all that, I wasn't quite satisfied. One more piece of the puzzle remained. See, Claire still thought she had some leverage. The house. Certain joint assets. The possibility of dragging out the divorce. But I had a final ace up my sleeve. Buried in our original prenup, which she'd barely skimmed back when we were starry-eyed newlyweds, was a clause about asset forfeiture in cases of public scandal causing material damage to the business. My lawyers were preparing to enforce it. If successful, Claire would walk away with far less than she expected, and I'd retain full control of Greystone. That would be the final nail. And when it landed, I planned to watch her squirm all over again. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. Revenge, when done right, is served at room temperature, just warm enough that your target realizes they're standing in it too late to get out. By day 3 after the gala, the media firestorm had only grown hotter. What had started as wine world gossip had spread to mainstream outlets. Greystone's name was everywhere, and not in the way Claire had envisioned. Our sales? Surprisingly up. Turns out scandal sells. The number of online orders spiked with every new headline. Our tasting room had a line out the door, people clamoring to drink the wine that inspired the poems. One particularly cheeky customer even showed up wearing a t-shirt that read, "I'm just here for the barrel room secrets." I poured him an extra splash on the house. Claire, meanwhile, had become a recluse. The once dominant queen of our brand now cowered in the guest room, curtains drawn. She barely emerged except to grab coffee or wine. Mostly wine. The few times we crossed paths in the kitchen, she looked haggard. Eyes sunken, voice hoarse from crying or yelling. I couldn't tell which anymore. I kept my tone polite. Distant. Never raised my voice. That unnerved her more than anything. The prenup enforcement was the last domino. My lawyer, bless him, had prepped everything flawlessly. Clause 16. Material reputational harm caused by the willful misconduct of either party shall constitute grounds for immediate forfeiture of contested assets. Translation? Claire's little affair and the public fallout gave me legal grounds to retain full control of the vineyard and a sizable portion of our joint assets. I filed the motion that Friday morning. Had the papers couriered to the house by noon. Claire found them minutes later. The shriek that followed could probably be heard across the entire valley. She stormed into my office, waving the documents like a battle flag. "This is insane," she shouted. "You can't leave me with nothing." I set down my pen, looked her dead in the eye. "You won't have nothing. You'll have what's left after your actions burn the rest to the ground. You're doing this to humiliate me." "No, Claire. You did that. I'm just ensuring the vineyard survives your little, creative phase." Her face twisted in rage. Then came the pivot, the crocodile tears. "Greg, please." Her voice softened, trembling. "We built this together. Don't do this. Don't leave me with nothing." I leaned back, arms folded. "Claire, when you were in Daniel's hotel suite writing Harvest of Desire, were you thinking about what we built together? When you were planning your next tasting room rendezvous, did you worry about our future?" She couldn't answer, just stared at the floor. "Actions have consequences," I said quietly. "This is yours." She left without another word. That evening, the final blow landed. Daniel, through his attorneys, announced his full withdrawal from Greystone's investments. Publicly cited irreconcilable differences with current leadership. Privately, we knew the truth. His name was radioactive now. No one wanted to touch him. Rumor had it several other business ventures were collapsing in his wake. Good riddance. The next board meeting was swift. With Daniel gone and Claire stripped of her branding role, I secured unanimous backing to restructure ownership. By Monday, I held controlling interest in Greystone. The vineyard was mine again. Entirely. I drafted one final post for our official channels. Greystone remains committed to excellence and integrity. Recent events do not define us, our wine and our values do. We look forward to welcoming you to a new chapter. Short, professional, subtle middle finger fully implied. And then, I did something petty. Not illegal, not even particularly damaging. Just satisfying. I had a new label designed for a limited release vintage, our flagship Cabernet, renamed Anonymous Reserve, a tribute to unforgettable words. The tagline? Some secrets are best shared. Sold out in 48 hours. Claire saw the announcement. I know because I heard the glass shatter in the guest room shortly after it went live. By the end of the week, she packed a suitcase and left. No dramatic farewell. No final confrontation. Just a slammed door and the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the hallway. I watched from the porch as her convertible disappeared down the drive. Did I feel sorry for her? Not really. She'd played her game. Thought she could have it all, the husband, the brand, the rich lover on the side. Thought she was smarter than everyone else. Turns out she wasn't even the smartest one in this house. As for me, I poured a glass of the Anonymous Reserve, sat on the porch, and scrolled through the latest memes. Hashtag Vineyard Vixen exits stage left. Greystone's Anonymous Vintage, poetry in every pore. When life gives you betrayal, make a damn good Cabernet. Couldn't have said it better myself. I didn't toast to Claire. Or to Daniel. They weren't worth it. I toasted to patience. To planning. And to the simple joy of watching a liar drown in their own words. Cheers. Subscribe to the channel